This is an SM Media production.
Hi folks, and welcome to episode 2 of SM Media's Road to Cheltenham 2024. I'm Scotland Pike. It's always a pleasure to be your host, and I'm delighted as always to be joined by from the Scottish Daily Mail, Calum McClurkin. Calum, how are we?
Yeah, all good. How are you? I'm just recovering from the Iroko news all week, but it's been quite an informative November meeting. Didn't go quite as well.
Punting-wise, it was atrocious.
Punting-wise, no, I mean, I did pick up towards the end and on Sunday, mercifully. That was probably more successful bet than other sports that weekend. Yeah, it was difficult, but you know that's what it's like. I mean, October, the October Cheltenham meeting was really good. So then one was really bad. So a couple of brutal beats. Everything that was really in contention kind of came to grief at the second last of last as well. So it was one of those meetings, but you'd rather have that out of the way, hopefully, than in March, and hopefully that's the bad luck out the season, kind of parked to one corner.
Yeah, a couple of bits of news, obviously, with the other bit of Iroko. You had Iroko on your lucky 15 for the season. We did say that we would give between Christmas and the festival, we would sub one of them out. I'm going to give you 2 subs. I'm going to give you another sub so you can have one at the end of the show to take out.
It's a bit like it's a bit like football, and they went from 3 to 5, isn't it? For me,
yeah.
It's a shame bookies don't do likewise. But I mean, I just gutted with Iroko, really. But
it was a strange
for the horse rather than bet for himself, because I mean, I get a private book started, but I mean, it was like certain horses that I really thought were just really good and overpriced, and he was one of 4 or 5 that I really like. So, but I mean, the horse is fine. It's a foot injury, so he just needs a season off. So, I mean, that gives reasonable hope that he's going to come back to the heights that I hope he can next season.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get into obviously that later on in the show. We'll talk about the Iroko replacement. Let's move into some questions. We put the word out for some questions. First one: can Jonbon beat El Fabiolo in the champion chase?
He would have said no before the slow chase, and then you think there might be a possibility now. It was a very good performance on Sunday. He did his usual kind of jig jogginess at the start, but when he went down, left the paddock, he looked calm, he looked a reformed figure. He looked a lot more kind of tractable, a bit more comfortable, a lot more mature. His jumping was clean, and he's put away kind of exposed yardsticks at champion chase level, but in open company again, he's beaten them very easily. He'll definitely go the 2 mile route now. That's what Nicky Henderson says, and I think Nico de Boinville kind of knows. I know Ian Coleman's been riding him pretty much his whole life, but I mean, I think Nico de Boinville kind of knows. He's really in step with the trainer, Nicky Henderson. I mean, when one's going well, the other's invariably going well. They know exactly what to do. I think tactically, I think this horse likes to get on with it regardless. Be pretty prominent. I think the Arkle, he was caught between a rock and a hard place, and trying to keep up with Dice Up Dynamo, keep tabs on him at least, and not just totally set it up for El Fabiolo. And he kind of did neither. And he was kind of he was a bit of a hostage to fortune there, and out of the 3 tactically, it was a bit unsuitable for him. So that cat and mouse stuff didn't really work for him. Similar in the Supreme when behind Constitution Hill, he was probably a bit too mindful of Dice Up Dynamo in front, and was vulnerable to Constitution Hill. But that's only 2 times he's beaten in his life. He's looked very good, very progressive. He looks a bit more mature and a bit more filling out, and yeah, you'd have to say there's hope because he's shown a bit of improvement, although he's a year older than El Fabiolo. So yeah, I think he's going to get a lot closer. And yeah, there is all of a sudden what you'd say would be a kind of one-sided rematch seems to be a bit of competition there. I would still side with El Fabiolo at the moment. I think he's got scope to improve, and I do think he has the potential to be the total generational talent. And I think his jumping has got more scope to improve as well. And I think he's probably a bit more versatile ground-wise to things. But yeah, I think his attitude mentally, I think Jonbon is starting to fulfil that, and that was definitely a good starting point. There's a race on all of a sudden, I think.
Yeah, I think there is as well, and he's going to have the Tingle Creek next. He should, if he's in that form, he should win that comfortably. But it does make it what a division we thought was with Energy been out. We thought it was going to be one sided. It's very much came to life. I really thought it was really good. I would say that's probably his best performance. I know people will say like the way he performed at an open company at Sandown after a long season, but I just thought it pinged near enough everything. I messaged you just before the race. I said he's quite quirky in the paddock, but as soon as I text that, he seemed to calm down and he wasn't as bad as he usually is going to the starting. So I just think it was a big improvement. I think he's got scope to improve. I would still stay with you. I still side with Fabiolo, but it certainly livens up the champion chase picture. Next one, a bit of a different feel. Obviously, with the really sad news about Time Hill this week. What are your favourite memories of Time Hill?
His Grade 1 win at Aintree was good. The 3 mile Liverpool hurdle. To win a kind of Grade 1, pretty much every level of your life it's admirable for his consistency, because he was quite young when he came on the scene. He was part of that thrilling Albert Bartlett race, second the Stairs hurdle, and then won a Cato Star and novice chaser. Grabbed some of the race form there and at that level, but for all sorts. And Philip Hobbs' stable, they were really kind of struggling to find a kind of consistent kind of Grade 1 operator, and he did it for a good 3 or 4 years. So yeah, admirable horse, a lovely type, and one of those that you kind of really genuinely appreciate kind of until something like that happens, unfortunately, when they either retire or come to grief in that unfortunate way. So hope the best, and hopefully the yard can find another really good horse like him.
Yeah, I would go along with you. I thought his Grade 1 win in the race at Aintree, particularly after being missing Cheltenham that year. Do you remember? I think we were both all over him for that Stairs hurdle. I think he would have won that Stairs hurdle based on that Aintree run. But yeah, as you say, wins a Challow hurdle, then goes over fences, wins a Grade 1, wins a Cottle Star. He was just an honest horse, just a likeable horse that done it for years. So yeah, I mean, thoughts with the connections and the trainers, but I mean, really hard, especially a horse like that who comes from a yard that maybe don't always have a superstar, but always a horse you could appreciate. But yeah, Time Hill, lovely horse. Final question, is 6-1 a fair price for Burdett Road in the Triumph Hurdle? Callum, we saw a really nice performance, I thought, from the horse to win that Grade 2 on the Saturday at Cheltenham. He's beat a fairly average field. Is that a fair price, or is a lot being made of just how confident Harry Cobden was? And we haven't really seen anything from Ireland yet, have we?
No, and that's why he's favourite, isn't it? You haven't really seen any other kind of high profile race at this level yet. Juvenile hurdlers. I think it's just brilliantly refreshing that he's there, because it offers something different. I mean, the first 10 home last season, the Triumph, I think, were all Irish trained out of 15. There was no really kind of big trainer represented, so you kind of need something like Goshen did in the year that he fell. It's something kind of as a kind of sliver of hope in a way to kind of see a British challenge develop. 6-1, yeah, I think it's fair. You can't really see it getting much shorter, because the percentage call is, Willie Mullins is like a good 4 or 5 near the top of the market. You'd have to think that at least 2 of them are going to be, very smart. I think Gordon Elliott's probably get more this year than he did last year. That's a guessing game though. What he did was very good. What he's beaten in behind is open to question. I didn't think it was a great race beforehand. I certainly didn't think it was after. It's the horse itself that's the real positive. The way he tanked through it, the way that he's meant to prefer better ground and a sharper track. There's Harry Cobden ridden him to supreme confidence. He was supremely confident beforehand and afterwards. So it's the best juvenile he's ridden, which is significant for Paul Nicholls as number 1 jockey. Say that for a James Owen horse. His jumping will need to improve though, and I think that's kind of sticking point here. I think he's more of a kind of they initially cut him from 20s to 12s, and that was mopped up quite quickly. I think 6 is a bit overreaction. I would price him about 8s at the moment, 8-1 favourite. I don't think he's that clear, mainly because of the Irish Challenge and mainly because there are kind of a few jumping frailties. The field probably wasn't great, but the manner he did it, he pulled up a lot in the track. He has that bit of kind of high-class juvenile quirk about him that I quite like. Like Goshen did. I'm not comparing it to Goshen. I think he's probably a lot more straightforward than that. But that kind of, sometimes the very best of that kind of quirk in them. And as a juvenile, you can get away with it a bit more by being that far forward. And his flat background's kind of made sure that he's pretty professional when he needs to get down to business. He hit the line hard. He's absolutely crushed them. He could have went round again, for instance. He's going to have one more run until the Triumph, and he's going to go there. He's going to prepped. The price is just now a little bit in the short side, but yeah, it'd be folly to rule him out. We'll see what happens next.
Yeah, I think it was a good performance. I'm 6-1. I wouldn't touch him right now, but I mean, it could just be, as you say, like a Goshen type who's clear of the rest, and it could be interesting. I think as you say, like obviously, like a few years ago, there's a lot of horses, like British horses, in the past, like likes of Defi de Soy, the likes of kind of Solo, Tritonic, who put in a serious performance in their short, and so it's not something we haven't seen before. I just don't know at this time of the year is that the sort of price I'll be touching, but very impressive performance. Let's move into talking about some of the horses that caught our eye this week. We will start in last Thursday at Punchestown. A couple of Willie Mullins horses caught our eye. Both ran in last year's champion bumper. We'll start with It's For Me and Loughlin. Both won. It's For Me won over 2 miles. Was obviously, I think he was favourite for the bumper at one point last season. We also saw Loughlin was a bit novice-y, obviously 2 mile and 2.5. Looks to be more of a stayer. What was your kind of takeaways for those two?
Yes, the champion bumper midfield seems to be a bit stronger than the top of the champion bumper, perhaps. Yeah, It's For Me, again, ridiculously keen, and that would be his problem going forward. He needs to settle to fulfil potential. And it's certainly there because he showed it in his debut bumper performance. It parachuted him to favouritism, and then the next 2 times he was far too keen for his own good and didn't get home. That will happen again at Cheltenham up the hill if he doesn't settle. Paul Townend alluded to it in his post-race comments. He said, yeah, there's a big engine there, but he does need to kind of learn to settle. So that is a challenge with him. But yeah, there's certainly a lot of potential there if they can harness it.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll move into Friday in Cheltenham, probably the worst pointing day I've had for a while. But probably the main takeaway would probably be the Trust of Trader Novices Hurdle. We thought we would see Captain Teague win that. He was beaten by Manila Missile, who looks a good horse. First of all, the winner. I thought the top three in this race. I think they could all be good horses down the line. Whether it's now, I don't know. But overall takeaways for each of the horses in this race.
I mean, Captain Teague is disappointing. He was third in the champion bumper. You're thinking that this is the horse that is the kind of great white hope of novice hurdling in the British division, and he was made to look slow. To me, you'd scrap any idea of him being a Ballymore horse and have to go Albert Bartlett and campaign him like Stay Away Fane, go up to Donny for the River Dawn or something like that. He looked slow. He was pretty ungainly, and I don't think Harry Coblin was particularly happy at any point under him. He'd a problematic. Some people were calling out for the ride. I don't think he could have done anything wrong because the horse wasn't quick enough to really properly get into it. The winner got a nice creeping ride into it and picked them off. The big Doyen sets a standard, but if he's doing anything in springtime, it'll be handicapping. He's just kind of he's very exposed at that level, and high 130s is what he is, and that's it. It opens up the kind of shallow 2.5 miler because it seems that Paul Nicholls might not have one that we thought would take that high rank. So others like Manila Missile, who might have been expected to. There was a decently little back profile for him, but you're kind of thinking he might be more of a handicapper down the line, can actually make hay as a graded novice and go that way. So the winner's an animal horse. I don't think it's open to a great deal of progression, but I'd be amazed if come March time that's Cheltenham form.
Yeah, I was really disappointed with Captain Teague. He just never looked. You thought his class would maybe just get him through, but just never at any point in the race were you thinking he's going to do what Hermes Allen did last year. And I don't think Hermes Allen is that good of a horse, but he failed. Do you know what I mean? I would say he beat a lot harder field than what Captain Teague had to beat. No disrespect to Manila Missy and the Big Doyen. I just don't think they're top class horses, but I seriously think Captain T could be a Bartlett horse or something like that. I think he's probably. They said Paul Nicol said something interesting. He said anything over hurdles is a bonus, so it's clear they obviously see him as a future chaser.
He's just, I mean, he did kind of the champion bumper again. It's proven to be pretty deceptive, and we'll get on to Fact to File later. They're slow. The ones in behind the Dream to Share are slow.
Yeah.
I mean, Loch In, the one mentioned there, he looks like a 3 miler as well, in the way he's kind of like, and he's wandering about the last two. He had any cheek pieces in an Albert Bartlett, for instance. A Dream to Share was just quicker and sharper than the rest, and I think at least 4 or 5 of the other ones in behind the Dream to Share, the better ones didn't go to the champion bumper. I think there are a lot of plodders in that race, and I think Captain Teague now, yes, you'd have earmarked him for what he did in the bumper, but I think he was just short of pace. I think pace beat him. He might still have class, probably does, to still place in any champion bumper would have class, but he was caught for pace down that hill badly, I thought, and couldn't quite rally in time. And I don't think Harry Corbin was too harsh on him up the running either. So there is definitely a future there, but I think it's over 3 miles.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move into Saturday. The less said about Friday, the better. Cheltenham, Broadway Boy won quite a good novices chase, actually. I've got some decent horses in here. The ever lovable Mr. Coffee, who just doesn't win a race. Won this. Broadway Boy won this for 20 lengths. It obviously boosts the form of Florian Porter getting into this week as well. I thought this was a good performance. He wasn't the best. His jumping wasn't tip top, but obviously there's a serious engine there.
Yeah, in this race isn't too great either, was it? I mean, he screams National Hunt Chase, but Nigel Twiston-Davies will send him over the Brown Advisory route. Cato Star, you'd think it's far too sharp, but that's where he's going to go. He's going to be campaigns a top 3 mile novice. I just think it Frank's Flown Porter form, and Flown Porter will beat him again, but he's just an out and out galloper, and I think he's done quite well to win that. We've all been caught. Needs about 7 miles, isn't he? He needs to go around twice. He needs to go around 4 times, 8 times. I mean, slow. But it's like Captain Teague slow. Don Pauling looks like Usain Bolt compared to him. It's beyond belief, really. And the other two haven't fired at all. So, but I mean, he went fairly quick and maintained the gallop, Broadway Boy, and he's still clouted the odd one as well. So, yeah, there is a fair engine there, but I just don't see that I don't think he's got the class of a proper kind of Grade 1 horse in springtime.
Especially with how deep that division is. He's seriously we've seen it last year. I didn't think the real whacker was anywhere near what a Brown Advisory winner. So it could be a similar type to that, but we'll obviously see. We'll see where he goes next. I would imagine maybe Cato Star. I mean, it's opened up in the past couple of days.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, they've pinpointed that route already, corrections. And that's where you kind of have to really go, unless you go to the Reynolds-town, which is a bit more galloping track, but that probably lower standards. But if Nigel Twiston-Davies has got a whiff of a Grade 1 horse, that's how they'll campaign them, regardless of what the price is and what the field is. And fair play for doing that, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll move into the Paddy Power Gold Cup. The Turners form from last year came to the boil again. Stage Star. I think this was an exceptional victory when you consider, I mean, 99% of horses would have been gone there. How many times, even the day before, did we see horses fall at that last fence? And I was thinking, I think there was a lot of support for him at the end up. He's beat Long Till May, who obviously beaten the Turners. I don't think the real whackers run any race at all. Takeaways for this: Stage Star's now 4-1 for the Ryanair. Do you think do you think this is the performance that deserves to be in that kind of calibre?
Performance-wise, yes. And if I think the champion bumper was poor and been proven right, I was proven wrong by this. The Turners form seems to be decent now. It came to the fore here in a very good handicap. We're not Long Till May being second. I think 2.5 miles on soft ground like that is a little bit too far for Not Long Till May.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe going back, if At Aintree, I think it'd be fine. At Cheltenham, I don't think it is. Maybe a strongly run two. He'll have enough class to kind of deal with that. That might be the way to go with him. He's up to 166 now after that, winning a 155 stage star. The concern backing him for the Ryanair is not his ability anymore. It's him and Alaho, the race to the front. Do they set it up for somebody?
Yeah.
If they both go, they're both kind of free-willing front runners. I know Stage Star had a bit of competition there, but that is a handicap. You expect it to kind of be classy enough to kind of handle that if you want to be a Grade 1 Ryanair horse. They both. I don't see any of them kind of backing off from a pace battle there. I think they both kind of will definitely want to make it. And while if one of them didn't make it, it would the other one you'd be all over in a heartbeat. But if both of them are there, something like an Envoy Allen or a Banbridge tracking them in behind could easily pick them off very, very much easily. I would say Stage Star, the younger progressive horse coming up the ranks, Alaho kind of the champion, but it's so much in hand and clearness and old rating. So what the Ryanair becomes a bit of a kind of, for some, a nonsense race between the Champion Chase and the Gold Cup. It's a pretty intriguing one because we've got quite a few intermediate specialists here that might be destined to clash. Stage Star went way up my estimation, and finding a leg to stay up. And that last was impressive, and even more impressive was how it didn't halt any momentum whatsoever.
Yeah,
he still went up the hill quite well. I do wonder. Paul Nicholls says that he might go there fresh. He did say that Stage Star did trot up the following day quite well, but going there fresh is a decent move. Well, even mooting that because his head carriage did go up and his tail flashed, which is normally a sign of lameness after the last. So he might have felt something. So I'd imagine he'd be a bit kind of sore after that. So giving some time off might be quite sensible. So I think he'd be even more interesting if he was fresh. But the fear is that they might cut each other's throats. As for the real whacker, drop down trip kind of found him out a little bit, but he was struck into, so he was lame. Yeah. So there was a valid excuse for him.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Stage Star put in a serious performance. I wouldn't be surprised if they just left him for Cheltenham because you saw last year ran really well first time out, then get hammered, then goes and wins the Turners. You know what I mean? So there is reason that they would keep him fresh, and I think it would do him no harm. Over to Navan, a few horses to talk about. Start with a really good maiden hurdle performance in the Gigginsdown colours. Stellar Story for Gordon Elliott. 1 over 2.5. Beat likes of Largy Hill. There's a couple of decent horses. Dancing City, I don't think jumped well enough. But Stellar Story into 12 to 1 for the Albert Bartlett. He looks to be a Bartlett horse, doesn't he?
Yeah, he certainly does. You can see him being the Elliott one that might pitch up at Limerick and go that way, like like your Fury Roads and Farouk Delaines down the time. It's just whether enough he'll have class and have his conditions on the day. But yeah, you think he's nailed down there, and he'll be an each way player come March. You'd have to think he did it well. Minimal fuss, bit of depth in behind. 47 on, able to do what he did, and he did it well. But yeah, he's just one of those that gallops all day long, you'd imagine. It's just whether enough he'll have enough class.
Yeah, I think that we've seen a couple of good Bartlett performances, but I would say him and High Class Hero so far have set the standard. We'll move into Lismillan Hurdle. I think if you didn't get a wee spring in your step on Saturday watching this, I think there's something wrong with you. Bob Ollinger is back in the winner's enclosure. He beat Zanahiyr over 2.5. Before we get into talking about is he back, how good was Blackmore on here?
I mean, very good. But I think she actually learned from last year, I can say, because I think she arguably went too soon and got run down by Home by the Lea. While this year, he was played quite late. Zanahiyr wouldn't be the toughest in a battle either.
No.
I won't say he's a big battling type, but he's just going to be so hard to place down the line, isn't he? Because he's just kind of like Grade 2.5 mile these days now, and that's his level. I presume they'll go to Leopardstown and go 3 miles and go for the Christmas hurdle there, but I really don't see much for him at Cheltenham because I don't think he'll get up the hill or 3 miles, and he doesn't have a hope really in the champion hurdle, does he? So I think he's kind of he's really lumped in between a rock and a hard place, and way how to place him. Maybe you kind of can mix and match over fences, try that again, or maybe try and actually just keep him busy and try and keep him sound that way and keep him interested, because he kind of peaks and troughs in his time. So, but it was very encouraging in the way he kind of got back up was quite good. There was signs of life there, but you do have to see him try and back it up, and you wouldn't fully trust him.
Yeah, I think that obviously, like, everybody knows, I loved him when he was a novice hurdler. It just never, like, although he won the turners, he shouldn't have won the turners. Do you know what I mean? He got a fair helping hand that day with galloping the Champs for him, but it was the day after, it was the time after that you thought there's something up here with that race at Punchestown, and then he just never ever found his feet after that and struggled badly. It's just to see him back in the winners enclosure. I didn't think, similar to like some Monkfish, when we saw him, I'd say he's in a similar kind of boat to Monkfish, is that he's never going to hit the heights of what we thought he would, but just to see him running well is enough.
Oh yeah, if you find the right race and conditions for him, he can be competitive. That suited him. I just don't see much else in the programme all season that will suit him like that as well. And last season, that was still his best run, was in that very race last season as well. So yeah, it's a tricky one. But as you say, for a horse like that had that great kind of novice kind of reputation coming into things, it is good to see him kind of operate at least at grade 2 level and still seeing him run. So that's fantastic and good enough, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Let's move into the Fortia chase. It was won by Captain Guinness, same kind of Rachel Blackmore Henry the Bromhead again. Captain Guinness was good here, right? We know what Captain Guinness is going to do. He's going to win races like this, but when it comes up at grade 1 level, he's going to get found out. But I wanted, as soon as the race was finished, my first thought was, I want to ask Calum about Samoa, because he shouldn't have been doing that.
And the handicap blot?
I think so.
Yeah, at the moment, I would think so. I mean, he's up and trip anyway. I mean, he's always held up in the back, for no reason. But I think that's a total. It's like, I mean,
I didn't think of it that way, but now I see it.
It's Andy Dufresne like, isn't it? The
Yeah.
GP McManus kind of thing. It is. I mean, to me, it strikes complete handicap blow. Either it's the plate or the Grand Annual. They did it with him in the county hurdle, for instance. He's certainly not going at the game. I think it's kind of, if we can get him down to 150 come spring, we'll run him in a handicap. If not, we'll just run him in a graded race, which will probably be the Ryanair. So interesting what they do next, because if they do persist with these kind of, out the back 2 mile high class graded races, it's probably pointing out to a handicap blot somewhere down the line when they eventually unleash his potential up and trip 2.5 mile, or are they actually going to try and make him competitive over 2.5 mile in graded races? So you can see him. You can see it probably in Irish Dublin Racing Festival. He goes there, he takes the top class 2 mile races, and he's not off behind Gentleman to Me, stablemate Gentleman to Me, or something like that, and he pops up in a handicap later down the line and wins. You can see that angle now. That's what I took out of it. As for the race itself, this was the best kind of bet of the whole weekend. I mean, how Dysart Dynamo goes off odds on favourite here is beyond me. I think a proven kind of grade 1, grade 2 placed operating Captain Guinness. Henry de Bromhead's stable form was in very good form. Captain Guinness is. He kind of runs to a 160 standard at times. It run up the Champion Chase. Very consistent. Could go Tingle Creek, which would be semi-interesting, although Jonbon has put him in his place already. But and if that's a race he was going to win all season, it was there like it was last season when he was second in 3 grade 1 subsequently after that. So and Dysart Dynamo just still hasn't learnt to settle at all. It's kind of still this trailblazing kind of tearaway that even the Mullins yard don't seem to be able to conquer. To be brave to ride him still, wouldn't you? But and even and that just suited Captain Guinness down the ground, because it actually gave him a toe into it, which is ideal, because he wants kind of the bare minimum test as well. When I was actually back Zanny here in the race before, but I'm more than made up for it when Captain Guinness went off at 3s. My eyes kind of lit up a little bit.
Yeah, I didn't understand the market here, but good to see Captain Guinness in the winners enclosure. Moving into the beginners chase, probably one of the best beginners chases we'll see all season. Facile Vega first. in the pocket second. It went the way we wanted it to be honest. We both sat here last week saying if this was the outcome, we'd be delighted. I took from the races, and Saint Felicien, I mean, York Hill comes to mind, like that kind of level of jumping to the left. But I think that helped the first two, because they weren't going to take him on because they knew what their outcome would be. They just sat behind, and just it went exactly what I wanted it to.
Yeah, it was a kind of dream kind of setup, wasn't it? And the result, it was kind of mapped out in my mind beforehand. As for Felicia, I would give him a little bit of a pass. He's been off for years. At the end of the day, I think they've ran him up front, just for fitness, and he's tailed off at the back of the last, and I think he's entitled to do so. So he's jumped a bit wonky, but I mean, I think they'd be very happy with what he's done there. In the pocket, very quiet ride at the back. Didn't want to take on Fasselvega. Didn't want to take on the pace. It was a ride that suggested that these two won't meet again, kind of thing. The way that he kind of motored from the back of the last screamed 2.5 miles, didn't it? Although Frank Berry's come out and said they'll stick to 2. I wonder why, because it does keep their options open for a start, and he does have the pace for 2, and you're not bumping into Fasselvega every time. They could conceivably go for the same beginner's chase again and take on Marine Nationale at Christmas. Get beat in a similar fashion there, and maybe that'll convince them to go for another soft race and go up and trip the turners and let Marine Nationale and Fasselvega box it out in the Arkle. That's why I would say I think in the pocket high class. I mean, he jumped well enough.
I think he jumped better than Fasselvega.
I think he did. His technique was better, but he wasn't as straight, I would say. Sometimes he's wandering left and right a little bit. But again, when he was genuinely asked, he did show kind of good turn of foot from the back of the last. But Fasselvega was never off the bridle. I know his technique, he's corkscrewed a few in the air, but he hit the line really well, and I was pretty impressed. I think there's lots to work on, and there's a lot to improve on, and I think that's what you want to see in the novice. You don't want to see a polished perfection, 10 out of 10.
No.
That's him, that's it. No scope for improvement kind of thing. I think there's plenty more to come there. And he showed enough boot to kind of stick him at 2 miles. I don't see him, unless something happens untoward like it did last season, I can't see anything beating him until March. And maybe even then at Cheltenham, something won't get near him. He's had a lot of hype in the background because of his bloodline, and I think he's doing remarkably well at the moment to keep justifying it.
Yeah, a bit of a cut. We saw Fasselvega. We both had him at 9-2. He's now cut into 5-2, and the pockets into 5s for the turners. So relatively good day, I would say. Moving on to Sunday in Cheltenham, we saw the Greatwood. Iroko Lord won the race. I was on the gamble, and I still maintain if the Mullins horse didn't run out at the fourth last, I don't know if he'd have won, but he'd have certainly been in the frame. But it was a decent Greatwood, actually. I think there's a few to take out of this.
Always a good race, yeah. And I put him up in the column. Peter, I mean, I got final. That was the first thing that went right all weekend, mind you, probably. But that's a graded horse in a handicap. It looked like it from the start. It looked like it through the race. He's come from a kind of little bit of an awkward position. He didn't bat an eyelid when the Mullins horse ran out, which was impressive itself. And the second's a good horse, and look away. That's found his feet now for the yard when in the wilderness last year, and he's definitely shown his potential. There's plenty more to come. It depends where they had what they do what they want to do with him. How fast you want to go up the ladder, because you can win another 2 handicaps with him this season, quite easily, and then hit 150 odd, and then you'd be thinking about graded races. See these contenders hurdles and elite hurdles, like he could certainly serve it up to the likes of Rubo in Grade 2 contests. I think he's that good, and I think he could probably go up and trip as well. He's that versatile. I mean, it was pretty much a slog, that race, and they went a reasonable gallop, I thought, and he went up that hill really well, like he did at Sandown when he closed to Under Control, who could be very good as well. Two very unexposed GP McManus, Nicky Henderson horses, and you have to follow them. Follow them the back of Sandown, and Under Control's got to be in people's radar as well now. She goes Jerry Field and might go Mare's Hurdle route, but she's at 2 mile pace. They have they've got £15-20 in hand, both of them. Iroko Lord less now, but obviously after that. But I mean, they're both ridiculously well in.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought it was a really good race. We'll move into Navan on Sunday. A horse you gave a wee mention to on the season preview we did was Calum McClurkin. Won first time out at Navan on Sunday. Didn't have much to beat. Obviously beat another Gordon Elliott juvenile by 14 lengths. You'd imagine better things are to come here, but done everything right.
Yeah, and improved as it went on, and it really bad ground. Made the pace, and it was a reasonable enough one. Only 30 odd seconds out of standard, which isn't too bad for a young juvenile mare. It got better and jumped really well, better than Burdett Road, I would say.
Yeah.
Cleaner, quicker. Obviously, there was less pressure, but yeah, and I think that Fairy House race in a couple of weeks' time on it's Drinmore Day, something like that. That Grade 3 is her target. I think she's probably in the definitely top 2 or 3 Gordon Elliott juvenile horses. And had that entry down Royal, didn't go there, went here. I think she's pretty good. And looking at the market were unmoved. Recent post ratings only had that rated £4 inferior to Burdett Road's effort. It was clean. It was efficient. Sauntered clear after making all, which might not have suited. Yes, she's beaten nothing, but there's so much more to come. She looked very professional and very straightforward. That's what you like to see in juveniles early doors. So yeah, I can make a case for that 25s.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll save the Troy Town for later on for the big point, but we'll move into the beginner's chase. American Mike beat Fact to File. American Mike obviously came back from a bang average novice hurdle season. We thought when he was a bumper horse he might go on, but fences could be the making of him. Overall thoughts of this race, I found it very interesting that Patrick Mullen seemed to be the most vocal about Fact to File. That leads to me he could potentially be saved for a big race on the Tuesday at Cheltenham.
Going to be mildly controversial here. I think this is rubbish form.
Do you?
Yeah, I was disappointed by this. I mean, I think American Mike. The positive for him is that he's definitely filled out his frame and is going to be a better chaser. But he's going to be incredibly hard to trust going forward, isn't he? I mean,
that's the thing.
The way things are going on, the back, the back portfolio doesn't scream kind of that he's going to kick on. He was just a bit quicker through the air, in fact, to File.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's won him the day. Whether he builds on it, he's got to kind of keep his condition, because there was one race last season where I thought he did look the part and it didn't quite work out for him. And the next time he came out, he looked a totally different horse.
Mm-hmm.
He'd lost his condition badly.
Yeah.
You have to see him again before contemplating him back in for any future kind of thing. See if you can hold it together. He did reportedly bleed as well last season, which it's going to be difficult to keep him on track. Gordon Elliott could do it. We do know what he did in bumpers and his reputation. But he hit the heights of a mid-130s horse last year, and it wasn't as if it was just the odd disappointment. It was a season full of it that didn't go right. At any point. And he's beaten a horse here that was slow and ridiculously keen, and probably short in fitness. What he reminds me, I think he does have class, but what he reminds me of is Garda Manil Mark II.
Yeah, possibly.
In the way that he is now, and saying that he's going to be campaigning around 2.5 mile trips, and get done for pace, and as probably say learn to settle and get into that shell, and that's why he's so big that they had to go over fences with him, and he's about 8, so I mean there was no point kind of messing about hurdling with him, so they've gone at fences. So 8 to 9, he might be one that they have to really keep in the go to get fit and get him up to speed. And I think Gordon Elliott will be the same. So I can see them being very kind of battle-hardened horses in a way to kind of try and build up both of their fitness. I think Factifile probably is the more trustworthy, better prospect down the line. I can see the National Hunt Chase angle, but I can see him being campaigned differently as well. I think Factifile is also unfairly going, oh, it's the Florida Pearl route. And all of a sudden people have gone, oh, is he that good? He really isn't. He could still be kind of, very good. So, he could still probably win Grade 1s down the line, but you would have to have been slightly disappointed that when he went upsides, American Mike, he didn't go past.
That was
Might have been short of fitness, might have been short of pace, but it still didn't materialise. And American Mike probably had to be very forward for that to kind of know where they are. I see one that I've got a lot of doubts that'll have more potential than the other one, who you have doubts with, not performance wise, but for the future. I thought it was muddling. They wouldn't be in my radar at the moment at all. You need to see them again.
I would write off Factifile. It's just something like I just didn't like it. I thought when Patrick came out and said, "Yeah, I'll try and put a word in to get him National Hunt Chase," that said to me, they don't think he's that good. They think now he's kind of been fairly exposed already, and I know that's silly, but for a horse who they obviously thought, as you say, they took him from bumper straight over fences, doesn't happen very often. They would have expected a lot more from that. They would have expected to beat an American Mike.
Yeah, I mean, again, though, I mean, it's what end of the spectrum do you view American Mike? Because I mean, if that really is genuinely him back to his best, and all of a sudden, I don't rate it at the time, but months down the line, this could be really, really hot, staying chasing form. Would they go American Mike the Tunnels? On last season's evidence, absolutely not at the moment.
No.
If he goes and backs it up, and all of a sudden he's definitely in the picture. As for Factifile, I think he'd make a very good staying second season novice at the moment, and I think he's very Gardemania-like in the way they do it. I can see them campaigning him over shorter placing in all these kind of races, second, third, fourth, over kind of 2.5 miles, just to get him fit, just to get him kind of settled, keen freshness, and then he maybe fulfill his potential. But you're then talking about a horse that's going 8-9 rather than kind of 6-7, 7-8, going that way, and that's the issue. And I think that's why they might rush him and try and get him, National Hunt chasing next year. But that might not be, and it's also a testament to the depth that Willie Mullins has.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, he's probably upper 150s might be his limit rather than what you thought previously that the Sky could be the limit. I think.
Right, we'll move into the other horse in Navan was Only by Night, won the bumper, beating Kualamita. Obviously, very expensive, £500,000. She just looks to be 30-mile. She could be a marathon. She would probably be a better horse for like a New York Marathon.
Yeah, I wouldn't put on the we've all been caught bracket quite yet, because I think the winner's quite smart and said the run of the race down the inner. She's had to kind of come from the back, 4-5 wide, stay on quite well, got upsides, and then get ran out of it. She was a point-to-point winner in the spring, and probably she moves quite well. I think nicer ground would have been better for her. I wouldn't completely rule her out. I don't think she's going to make. She probably has a promising future. It doesn't lie in bumpers.
I don't think it lies over bumpers or even hurdles.
Exactly. That well being said, the winner's done it quite well.
Yeah.
He was keen enough early, had a soft enough lead, and then when the rivals came upside, he's just kind of powered away again. I think there's a lot of improvement in there. Whether they're necessarily going to be Cheltenham horses is probably debatable. I think the Mayor's Bumper programme's quite well set in stone. You've got Aintree thing that's quite well done in Ireland as well, and I think they'll stick to their own, battling out with their own sex, I would think.
Yeah, I would think so too. We'll move into Monday in Exeter. We saw a decent horse for Harry Fry, Gidley Park. We don't really see many good Harry Fry horses come along, but whenever they kind of stand out, they put in performances like this. I thought this was actually quite good to win by 7.5 lengths here. You can tell though he needs further.
Exactly. He was clipped into 20s of the Ballymore. And he obviously these kind of races, you kind of immediately question what's in behind it. He did it really well, and I think they're keen to kind of get more experience into him. So I think they're going to run him under a penalty and another novice, and then there's a Cheltenham kind of New Year meeting where there's kind of good options.
Yeah.
Test your credentials there. So there's a very good programme. But yeah, when he finds one, he can find one, and the yard can just hit that kind of really kind of down patch for some time. And we want to avoid that. But we've got class when the Neon Wolf, you know what I mean, Harry. Horses like that, they can compete at the top level Cheltenham festivals. So yeah, we wouldn't dismiss them. And the ownership, was pretty unheard of. It'd be quite interesting if somebody like a GP Manis came in and made an offer for him or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. But that was the recap for the week. Let's move into our weekend preview. It's going to be a fascinating weekend. We've got the first Group 1, Grade 1 in the UK over the weekend. In the UK, we've got 2 Grade 1s in Ireland to look forward to. We'll start in Haydock. We will start with the Betfair Stairs Handicap Hurdle. Slate Lane, another what looks to be a Paul Byrne plot, and again off 127, Crambles 10-3, real likes of Bold Endeavour, fine margin for Willie Mullins. This could be a nice little handicap hurdle. You get any thoughts here?
Yeah, sometimes produces a very classy horse. I think Paisley Park, and I went Haydock handicap route and the Stairs hurdle season when people are seem to be searching for stars and to kind of emerge and shake up the market a little bit. It's races like these that people tend to look at. Slate Lane probably has better credentials than the Gamble and the Greatwood, for instance. At least there's credible winning form behind them. A light weight around Haydock's no bad thing for a Stairs test. The ground is starting to dry out a little bit. 10-3. It's probably short enough. I thought the Cheltenham Pertemps form was pretty good. And Dubrovnik Harry was fourth in it. He could get closer here for the Harry Fry yard each way, 14-1. I think fairly reasonable. And yeah, that's one that I would kind of side with at each way price at the moment.
Yeah, I think Bold Endeavour's better than what he's shown in the past. I think 143 is not too bad here. He's going to need to beat his best to win, but I think Bold Endeavour at 9-1 is a decent each way bet. Moving into the Betfair Chase, obviously Brave Man's Game has been declared. It's been the talk of the town. Harry Cobden not on board. Do you think a lot's been made into this before we talk about the race?
Yes, it's one of these things, isn't it? I mean, Paul Nicholls was quite sharp in saying you can't beat 2 places at once and all that jazz. Yeah, I mean, Johnny Delahay's a big backer of the yard. He's got 6 pretty plum rides at Ascot. He'd be sacrificing that for kind of one up here.
He's only entered one as Brave Man's Game. He's only entered Brave Man's Game at Haydock.
Yeah, and it originally wasn't the plan, was it? And the plan was actually for Pick Dory to go Charlie Hall and Brave Man's Game to go there. But I think Pick Dory was rerouted to Ascot under the promise that Harry Cobden definitely be riding.
Yeah,
if you've got an outside chance at the Jockeys Championship as well, I think you have to kind of six solid chances is better than one kind of outstanding one. But I mean, if it's all about the horse, then he's definitely not been jocked off. I mean, all that nonsense about challenge, that's not going to happen. King George Day will definitely be back on. So yeah, there's been a bit of a mountain of a molehill been made out of it. A big owner has come in, and and Johnny Delahey has his own box at Ascot, for instance, and he ploughs plenty of support in the Paul Nicholls yard, who's also going for a Trainers' Championship again, and the prize money there is decent, and it's spread over a bit more as well. So yeah, you have to go there. Whether Harry Cobden's, I think he might be the one that's kind of lost out the most out of it, but it's a team game. You can't be 2 places at once, and yeah, it wouldn't concern me at all now or going down the future.
Right, let's get into the race. He obviously leads the market at 4-5. Protectorat last year's winners 9-4. Royal Pagaille 7-1. Korat Rambler 9-1. I don't know. We said Protectorat would be hard to beat, but now that Brave Man's Game's in, the ground seems to be drying up a bit. Does Brave Man's Game have to win this? Does he have to win this to say, like, King George, can he be beaten by? Can it be a similar story to the Charlie Hall? Could he look fine up until the last fence and be done with Protectorate on the day and still come out looking fine?
Depends how prominent the King George is in their minds. The plan was to run in one or the other.
Yeah.
It's certainly not both. No,
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm surprised they've declared them.
It's better for him to run in one in both than neither for the sport for a start. So this might be the season where he's going. I really rate this horse. He's 8-year-old. He should be in his prime now. Let's aggressively campaign him. Like the good old days, which he would do with Caleb Star.
Yeah.
Things like that. I mean, this is what we should be doing. And I would encourage actually more trainers and more owners to do this and be positive and go for every race. And if you do get beaten the odd one, it doesn't matter. We all know you've got a high class horse, and the public see them more and get attached to them more. So, what's the upset of getting the odd defeat here, there, and everywhere? Just to map it out for the King George, and maybe a post kind of Cheltenham target down the line. He can be sometimes he can be a bit too selective. So, if he's come out Weatherby well, they're thinking, I want a win under our belt, before going there, because he's probably went to Weatherby in the same condition as he did last year, and they thought, well, that'll be enough. And then Gentleman's Game, Reese Fit came and spoiled the party a little bit. So maybe they're going there for that. It's certainly interesting, and it adds much needed pizzazz to this race, doesn't it? It shakes it up a little bit. As for Protectorate, you'd be all over him at the start of the ante-post, understandably so. You think this is his cup final. The Yard normally have a good reappearance run record, not this season.
No.
They're not going too well. That's Skelton seems to be pretty happy with his condition. I did a lap up from 3 to 1. He's probably he could go off 3 to 1 now.
Yeah.
So I mean, I can, betting wise, I can leave this.
I'm not touching
this
race
alone now at the moment, and I'm definitely not doubling down, but I'm definitely not pulling out. I can see Protectorate beating Brave Man's Game, because this is his Gold Cup. It's not Brave Man's Game Gold Cup. It's just another race. But it will be, if Protectorate is going to win a Grade 1 this season, again, like last season, this is going to be it. So it's up to him to deliver. And the good thing here is that Royal Pagaille is in there.
Yeah.
Because he's got very good haydock form. It might be drying a little for him, but he should make it a test. Which should play into Protectorate's hands a little bit more than Brave Man's Game. It means Brave Man's Game can't just get a ball out in front, out jump everything, and everything will be fine and dandy. And Corrick Rambler, this is a kind of fact-finding mission for him. And where he's going to go, because if he runs as badly as Dick Kelso, I suspect retirement is on the cards.
Possibly.
If he somehow upsets Apple Cart and wins, he becomes a Gold Cup contender. But if he places and runs honourably, he's going to run in the Gold Cup, and it'll be a prep for the Grand National, Noble Yates style. So it's where he is in the pecking order, and on ratings, he'd be fourth. So there's kind of a race with him and Royal Pagaille going on, and a race with Protectorate and Brave Man's Game going on. Freddie Neil McCullers, the Protectorate Mask, it's the biggest non-betting race of the year, you'd find at the moment. But it's shaping up kind of pretty ominously. Darryl Jacobs, not a concern for Brave Man's Game. He's brilliant partnership Bristol to in this race. Judge pace perfectly fine. Yeah, I have to stick with Protectorate, and I'm just about happy enough to do so.
Yep. It'll be interesting. I'm not going to touch this race. I do think if Brave Man's Game tip top, he'll win. So it'll be interesting. We'll move into Ascot. Shishkin's been declared to run in the Nirvana Spa 1965 Chase. Brilliant name for a race, that. He's 4-6. First time cheek pieces, which I thought was interesting. Pick Dory is 13-8. I think this could be a similar story to Betfair Chase. If Shishkin was to get beat, I don't think it would. As long as he's anywhere near what we see, I think he'll be fine. But I would say Pick Dory's probably going to be. This is his chance to beat Shishkin. So if I was to pick between the two at the prices, I would probably just say Pick Dory.
Yeah, I think Shishkin's just simply a miles, but £11 clear. Henderson Yard flying along. They've gone here, put cheek pieces on maybe to sharpen him up, but he's gone well at Ascot before. He's down there in Gamino over 2 miles. The trip's not a problem, even though it gets longer. The trip might be a bit of a problem for Pic Dory. He's a kind of 2.5 mile whippet. Ascot can get a bit testing at times. He's probably not going to get all his own way if Manila Drama is ridden a bit more prominently than usual. I think Shishkin's got too much class for Pic Dory. I mean, he's whacked him before by 16 lengths, hasn't he? You know, and that was Ascot when he was kind of arguably under a bit of a cloud. You know,
Yeah.
he's coming into this quite well. Cheek pieces are on just to kind of sharpen him up a little bit, and I think it'll have the desired effect. I think 46 is almost reasonable. I'd expect him to win. Pic Dory's only a year younger. You know, I mean, it's not as if there's a kind of vast upward curve here taking him on. I think £11 should be off levels here. You know, I think there should be enough. Not that I necessarily fancy him for a King George Shishkin, but I think he's good enough to take this.
Let's look at the Ascot Hurdle, the other Grade 2 on the card. If you want, you put a tweet up just before we come on here about how bad this Ascot card looks, and this is a symbol of it. Goshen's 13-8, Theatre Glory 3-2, Blue Kangaroo 9-2. You've got So Royal, Strong Leader. If you want a reason why the UK racing scene is way out of control, this is it. Nobody in the planet. And you're going to see here Goshen will win probably. I'm not backing Goshen at 13-8. Not in a month of Sundays.
No, I mean it's drying ground, and you know he usually needs to be fitter for this, and he's not going to be straight. Theatre Glory's the one for me at the moment. You know, I mean, getting weight, graded horse. Screw Royal looks a bit over the hill now, to be honest. Blue Kangaroo for a 4-year-old, he's got enough to find. Could have ran in the Greatwood. Don't think he's well enough in here. A Strong Leader could bounce back, but the Chepstow run was fairly deplorable.
Yeah.
I think Theatre Glory's the one that just found the mares a little bit too hot. It's the Henderson Yard that's going so well. I think there's just so much upside to her. But the Ascot card, there's 39 runners across 7 race card for Ascot Saturday.
That's shocking.
That's really, really bad turnout wise. It's not healthy at all. And early in the week, you know, we had a walkover at Warwick on Wednesday, and we had a Might I winning at 1-4 in a match race where the other horse tipped up in Exeter Monday, and that's just this week. And that's just a month into the season itself. You know, they are tinkering around the edges and things, but it's becoming more and more plain by the year that there needs to be a kind of a drastic change in thinking in regards to programming.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's something
that's one of the better races that we've been through. That is one of the few actual betting heats here where we're not having to pile in odds-on shots.
Yeah.
You know, the punters actually have some sort of return where if you can actually pick out an opinion here in a graded race, you know, you can actually find something that resembles a price.
Yeah, I think I would give Strong Leader a bit of respect here. It does need to really bounce back, but I just think it's 7-1 against what looks to be a bang average field. I think I would take a chance on him that he might bounce back to form. Punches down. We'll start on Saturday. Morgiana Hurdle. 2 Willie Mullins runners, 2 Gordon Elliott runners. That's something we'll talk about in a minute. State Man. He should just bounce back, shouldn't he? He should have the beaten a Pied Piper. Echoes and Rain. I know he'll just do what he does. She'll just do what she does. He should just have the better of these.
It's a nice race for second between Pied Piper and Echoes and Rain, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's what it is.
That says everything about your Echoes and Rain thought.
Phil the Dairies is just going to, you know, might go out there to try and hassle State Man from preventing making all and having it completely his own way. But after like half a mile, he's going to be too quick for him and dominate anyway. So and you know, Pied Piper and Echoes and Rain are probably battling it out for second. And whoever wins that wins it. But we've got a lot of short prices to deal with, and you put State Man in your racket every day at 2-5. You know, if you find that 4, 5, 6 horses that you like, I think he's got to be on the list.
Yeah, let's move into the John Durkin on the Sunday. This is quite a good thing that they brought the Morgiana and the John Durkin into the same kind of card over the weekend. We see the return of the Gold Cup hero Galloping Deschamps. He's 4-11, Fast or Slow obviously get the better of him at Punchestown's 9-2. Blue Lord, appreciate it. A steering for Launch Statler in here, a load of Willie Mullins horses, but it's the one at the top of the market that we're looking at. What do you think here? What's enough to say Galloping Deschamps is back? Is it just to be what he was last year in this?
Yeah, and I think he will win this. I mean, I've seen pretty good reports for him across the board. Yeah, he's got too much in hand. Fast or Slow, the drop back and trip is more of a negative for Fast or Slow than it is for Galloping Deschamps, surely. And Blue Lord can go well fresh, but we know his limitations and appreciate it's in the same kind of boat. So, I probably expect Galloping Deschamps to be very handy here and maybe be a bit more exuberant, and that'll get the cobwebs set off, and he'll have exactly the campaign he did last season, all routes to the Gold Cup. I'd expect him to win this with minimal fuss as well. 4-9's it's okay, and lump double with State Man potentially over the weekend. I don't see either of them getting beat.
It could be a fairly good day for Paul. Couple of days for Paul Townend. We will obviously during the weekend we'll have our selections up on the Calum will have his on his X page. I'll have ours on the SM Media page. So stay tuned for that. Let's look at the big point. The Troy Town Handicap Chase was an interesting race on Sunday. We saw the mighty Gordon Elliott have 15 runners in the one race. I don't know if you've seen it, but there was a picture of all 15 jockeys, and it was just brilliant.
It was on our paper column, and Dominic King writes horsepower for us every Wednesday, and it was that kind of picture. 14 in the end. One that was taken out at the end, which was kind of it was also Cavalry Master, which was 150 to 1 shot. So it worked out. He won the race. And it is what it is. It's the if British Racing's got a problem of like really shortages, field sizes. I mean, Ireland's problem is that there's just way too much ammunition and too few hands, isn't there?
Yeah.
If it's Willie Mullins at the very top level, and in behind it's Gordon Elliott. It's not a problem in a race like a Troy Town. In an Irish Grand National or the Grand National, where it's the Grand National in particular, if it's a very exclusive race, you're going to get these horses that are going to just come up here time and time again. Your Cocoa Beaches of the world. They're so highly rated and they pop up at any time that they kind of just stay there because they run at that certain race, and they just run at that certain level, and they all take turns of winning over and over and over again. So if you make the Grand National going down in size, which you've done, it's harder for any young unexposed horse to actually get into that level at all. So instead of having a 2-tier system with graded and handicap horses, you invent a kind of 3-tier system, and your proper grade 1 horses, your kind of graded handicap horses that'll just kind of stay there in the solid mid 150s to 140s, and then the rest in behind. It's not Gordon Elliott's fault, and you'd rather have a full race than a 7-8 runner kind of heat. He's not prevented anything directly coming out of it, and you're not seeing better quality horses, but it's just not it's not a healthy situation when you're kind of. I mean, what if Gordon Elliott wakes up or Gigginstown wake up one morning and say, "I've had enough of this"?
Well, they did. That's the thing. They did, and then they're back in. Do you know what I mean? They're back in, and it's like how. And when you look at that photo that we looked at, I think there was something like 5 non-Gigginstown like jockeys in it, and I'm thinking if I'm Michael O'Leary and looking at the class horses he's had over the years, is that what he wants to do now? Is just pummel these kind of handicaps?
Yeah, and exclusively in Ireland, they don't come over for anything else unless it's Cheltenham or Aintree. It's that exclusive. It's death by numbers. That's how they kind of like to operate. They like to dominate the market. Even in his businesses, you could argue with the ladies. They do like to kind of be condensed and dominate things intrinsically, and that's what gives you the control, and you can do what you like. Cocoa Beach for the race was probably probably about 5th or 6th string. He was £8 higher than his last winning mark. He wasn't one that you would have obviously found, but he is a very admirable horse that's ran in Grand Nationals and things like that. He probably wanted better ground, but yeah, sometimes you just got to follow what does Jack Kennedy think best, and have to the horses you're watching and think, well, that's the one I think that they think are on the day, or then follow jockeys and like try and get jockey bookings. So it's a different kind of unique little puzzle in that regard, and it remains a betting heat because of it. But on the long term thing, it can't be a healthy situation.
Do you want to know the horse that I picked for this race? You'll laugh as soon as I say it.
I don't know, Dunboyne or something.
Largy debut. Brought down at the first. I'm like, that's trying to go against Gordon Elliott and the horse who I've went way too many times to the hill with, and he's done as well. But I mean, it's obviously something that, I mean, you won't see this in Britain. But there's, as you say, it is ammunition. Willie Mullins isn't going to do it, but Gordon Elliott is, and fair enough.
Willie Mullins wouldn't do it in handicaps. Mullins can do it in the top.
He can do it in big races, but does that paint a different picture of you've got a bit more ambition in terms of the owners? For example, you've got, not that the trainer's not ambitious because he will, but you would look at, like, for example, remember a couple last year, Mighty Potter was up against 5 Willie Mullins horses in the Grade 1, but all of them kind of had big days in them. Whereas, like, what's the best day you're going to get out there? Like Frontal Assault, best days are behind them. Run Wild Fred, done, to be honest. Hollow Games, I don't see him being any more than a kind of handicap plodder and kind of something like this. There's nothing in here you would say, right, their best days are in front of them. Whereas with Willie Mullins, he can do it in graded races, but there's a bit more future in terms of that. There's a bit more promise in terms of, like, we're going to see it at a competitive level. This is nonsense.
Yeah, that's just the nature of the race. I mean, you would not be surprised if one of them popped up at some point. Dunboyne, for instance, he's either hot or cold at times. I don't think Run Wild Fred's completely done yet. And some of them will be forgotten about in the marks, and the colours will just all blur together, and you'll forget about him, and you think, oh, he must still in the mark, and then all of a sudden he's like £15 lower, and pops up. They'll all take turns and win the races, these handicaps, and it's when it's all kind of painted into one, it's hard to truly dismiss any of them, because invariably, one of them's going to be popping up somewhere. Willie Mullins just has the luxury of doing that with better horses and better races. Gordon Elliott does it handicaps with decent pots, and that's where it is. But it's just very hard. I think the number of trainers in Ireland has gone down by about 30% in the last 4 or 5 years. That's where the problem is. It's hitting the grassroots, and any decent horse is going to go to Gordon Elliott or Willie Mullins, and a smattering will go, 3 or 4 kind of semi to top level, and then the rest are really struggling to survive.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll move into our selections. Final part of the show, we are going to do our Iroko replacement. You've got a chance now to get your lucky 15 back to normal. Iroko, he's out. Who are you replacing him with?
I should probably save it for later, shouldn't I? Because the two of my 5-5 to follow my column are now sidelined as well. So a bit cursed early season. I'll go with the other one that I've backed in the private book to fill it out. Is Banbridge for Ryanair.
Okay.
I think he's still one I quite like, and if Stage Star and Alho do go, the pace set up, I think, the Banbridge beat Stage Star at entry fair and square as well. Now, whether it was a turner's hangover and he was in or out, but that form alone has been partially boosted as well. He needs the ground to be decent, which is always a doubt, but that's factored into the price as well, I think. And I think he's got a lot of upside, and he's a very efficient jumper, and the way the Ryanair might well be run at the moment, top of the market would really suit him. So I think he's at 14. So he would definitely be the earliest substitution ever, replacement.
Yeah, this is one that's injured in 5 minutes and he's in. But
who's to be injured for me next week?
Yeah, I know. But it's that it's the nature of obviously anti-post betting, like we've seen in the past, and it's when you wish the non-runner no bet was there. But That isn't until after Christmas.
Well, I mean, if it's there, then you get a bad price. I mean, I've got a good price on him, and it's not materialised. I mean, this happens all the time. I mean, it happened. I had Jerry Calum in the Bartlett here where he missed it, and he was 50s, and I get 50s, and it's some of the best bets are the ones that don't make it at the end, and some of the worst at the time that you think, why the hell back that all of a sudden pop up and win. It can happen. It can happen either way.
Yeah, it absolutely can, and we'll be back next week for another episode of Road to Cheltenham. Callum, been a pleasure as always. Best of luck with the punting this weekend.
Yeah, definitely. I hope to improve from last week.
Ends a boost. Thanks very much to everyone that's tuned in. Follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube and podcast channels. And we'll see you soon. Cheers.